webinar series, but hopefully not the last of us seeing DR.ABC. We're here to dive into our leading change in equity, diversity, and inclusion and the implications for educational leadership. So thank you again for joining us. And as we gather today, we respectfully acknowledge that we are on the ancestral lands and waters of the Algonquin people, who left their footprints on Mother Earth long before us. We recognize their long-standing relationship with this territory, which remains unceded. This acknowledgement should not function as closure, resignation, or acceptance of the past or present, but should spark a desire to learn about the true history of this country and provoke thought, reflection, and positive change. And as we prepare ourselves for this session, we pray, in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. God of love, peace, and unity, we thank you for welcoming us and all that we are, for making us equal as your children, and for giving us your blessings. We pray that you help us realize that we are all made in your image, and we need you to bring peace to all our creations as one people. We ask this in your holy name. Amen. In the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mena. Good morning again, everyone, and welcome to our last in our series here. And today we're going to really have a good, quick discussion on the value of leadership in all of this. And it's funny, this morning I was doing some reflection and I came across a quote by Gloria Layden-Billings. I came across some other stuff I was looking at. And it's funny because I wasn't looking for leadership conversations in my own personal time, but there came so many things about leadership, and the topic again of moral courage to lead came up again. And so we want to jump into that this morning and have a quick conversation about leadership in equity, diversity, and inclusion, and leading change, because I think a lot of us forget that what we are doing is leading change. This entire process is about change. And if you think about it, and this is why I really want us to start like this, if you think about how we have led change, if you think about how we have led change in many areas, think about how we led change in our board when we were talking about differentiated learning. Think about how we led change when we were talking about new curriculum, how we led change when we were implementing new policies. We led change in a very systematic way. You think about, and many of you are principals, vice principals, leaders, others of you who are educators. I can guarantee you can remember one change that happened in the board or a last board you were at, and think about how it was done. And then think about how we are trying to lead change in equity and the difference. It is almost as if equity is, let's grab what we can grab and run with it. But every other thing, we have been very systematic about the change. So later on in this conversation, I'm going to show you one of my favorite change model. I think I've told you before, John Cotter's, you can Google it from now, John Cotter's change model. That is my favorite. It's very systematic. It's step by step. And I've been teaching change management for years. And I've used that. I've shared it with organizations, with schools, with principals, with leaders. And they have said, Dr. Campbell, that was a good process. And so I want us to have that frame of mind as we're talking about change right now. That what is my change process that I am using at my school? What is the change process I'm using at the board? Because change is a process. And that is why I want us to talk about leading change. So I love this quote from Bold Business. It says, diversity leadership pertains to individuals who excel in promoting inclusive cultures in the workplace. So think about it. If you are leading, working, excelling in promoting, and many of you have done that. You know, this weekend I spent a good time on Twitter watching, and I saw a couple of you making posts, sharing upcoming summer learning, summer institute. I saw it. I saw a lot of things that you were sharing. And I smiled every time something came up. I smiled because what I saw was the promotion of the learning. What I saw is the promotion of the action. It's a promotion of calling people together and saying, hey, we're going to do some change. We're going to do some learning. So there are many of you in this room that I follow on Twitter. And if I'm not following you, I'm going to follow you and follow me back, and we share. And I saw you promoting learning. I saw those posts this weekend, and I smiled. I saw a couple of them on Friday, even Friday morning, as a matter of fact, on Thursday, and I smiled because we see the promotion. So this is how you lead. This is how you lead, right? So this is a busy slide, and I do it on purpose. Leadership creates the space and condition in which learning communities that embrace diversity and multiculturalism as a way of life, rather than as a problem to be solved. Take note of that. We talk about promoting as a way of life. Promoting as a way of life. Inclusion in our school as a way of life. Equity, diversity, and inclusion as a way of life. Inviting the community in as a way of life. Having high expectation for Black students, Indigenous students, racialized students, students who have other kind of disabilities and other ways of expressing themselves as a way of life. Making space for student voice as a way of life. There's a principal Connections magazine going on for the summer issue. Myself as an article in it along with Kashka Watson. And when you read through it, you realize student voice should be as a way of life. So ask yourself, am I about problem solving or am I about a way of life? And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to say something and I want you to catch this, Allison. A lot of the issues we see happening out there right now is because we're seeing equity, diversity, and inclusion as a major problem out there that we need to solve. Wow, the Indigenous people are talking about 215. How do I solve that? There is some racial slur happening in one of our schools. How do I solve that? Well, we're trying to be a little bit more culturally relevant with our books and our library. How do I solve that? And we keep going from solving to solving. What we need is a way of life, a plan and action to say, this is how we plan to do business here. This is how I'm going to do business. This is me, Alex. This is me, Nicola. This is me, Christine. This is how I'm going to do business. And it becomes a part of you. When I talk about equity lens, I want you to realize when you put on equity lens, you just see things differently, automatically. That's it. It's not, oh, there's a problem. Let me go find my equity lens and dust them off. It's you wear the lens like I wear my glasses on a regular, and you see things differently, just as that. And I want you to come to that second nature as a leader. We really want to get to that second nature as a leader. So this is what I did. I highlighted a few things in the phrase. So if I were you, I would only take pictures or only write down the highlighted things. Create the space. Think about how and the many ways you can create space. Think about that for now. Become a way of life. I just talked about that. How will these things become a way of life? How are we making connections? One of the things that I have purpose to do, I've been doing it, but I want to be a little bit more intentional. So I'm sharing this with you, personal, Mena, Allison, because I want you to understand I'm working on myself as well. So I think I've been doing a good job. I'm going to say that, a fair enough good job of making sure I unlearn and learn more about anti-Indigenous, colonization, FNMI, First Nations. I'm doing that. But what I decided to do better as a way of life for me is my communication and connections and relationships with Indigenous folks that I know. So I don't want to call on my professor friend I have at Queens. I don't want to be doing once a year when we meet at CSSC. I don't want to be doing, she recommends her students to come see me for a workshop. I don't want to be doing, I recommend, to go to a workshop with her, or we are doing something together. And guess what? It's a good connection. It is a good connection, Allison. But I want a better connection. I, Andrew Campbell, want a better connection. I want that to be a better way of life for me. So think about those things. How are we creating spaces as leaders? How are we making these issues and access become a way of life? And how are we embracing? Here comes the big one. Here comes the big one. How are we embracing our responsibility? You know what happened in the schools right now, Mena? You may have maybe a better team than places I've been at, and I mean that. But there are places where people are fighting. And don't think I'm a fool. Don't think I'm a fool. I know there are principals right in your board and vice principals and teachers and superintendents. It happens everywhere, fighting it as well. Let's be frank about that. We're not going to, we're talking as leaders. We're not going to do, kumbaya. Thank you for that, Allison. Live and breathe it. It's funny because I normally say live it. And just now I used the word breathe and I had goosebumps all over me, Allison. You always keep doing that to me. Because when I use the word breathe, it became second nature. Just stop for a minute and just touch your stomach and just breathe. It's that natural. there's no extra effort, Breathe. Thank you for that word. Thank you for that word. You breathe it. You breathe honesty. You breathe empathy. You breathe fairness. You breathe inclusion. You walk into a room and you look in the room and you realize there's a big decision being made, Allison, about something. And you just scan the room and you just realize, hey, Mena, I don't see one student here. It's natural. You never have to do anything about it. You just breathe it. You look in the room and you scope the room, and naturally as you take a breath, you go, I don't see any student voice here. I don't see student voice here. It's natural. Jody says, as Dr. Love reminds us, we're swimming in the water of whiteness, unknowingly drinking it and upholding it. You have to be embracing it with responsibility. That is it. You are intentional. You are aware. So how do we do that? We want to do that. So this was the first thing. I know, Jody, you had no idea this was the next slide. But you see what you said? And look, what is it? If you are swimming right now in this water, if you are aware of what's going on in and outside of you, you'll be more conscious. You'll be more conscious. I use an analogy, Alison. You know, I'm an analogy person. The first time I went to a lake, I love going to the cottage. I have a friend who owns a cottage, a principal to be exact, and we are friends, and I go to his cottage, and I love going there. Oh, I love going there, okay? The entire cottage cul-de-sac know when I'm there, okay? Because the music is pumping, and I'm living my best life. Mena, you would want to be in a cottage weekend with me, I guarantee, okay? I'm living my best life. I wear special clothes to be on the boat when they go to the boat because I want something to flow in the wind. Oh, I'm dramatic. You know that. But I want to show you something. When I went to the cottage for the first time, because I've never swum in lake water before because I'm from the Caribbean, you know that, and the water is still, and you can't see the bottom where I was at the lake. I observe all the things outside of me. And I can tell you, I did not go in the water the first trip until I got some unlearning. Honestly, this is no joke. I got some unlearning because where I'm from in the Caribbean, we said when water is that still and it's dark at the bottom and you can't see, you need to be careful. So I walked I'm going to surprise you now with a word. I approach the lake water with a deficit mentality. Now you get me. Now you got me. Now you get me. Because I was thinking, I don't trust this water. I don't trust this water. I don't know about this dark water. I don't trust this water. I know nothing about this water. So you approach it with a deficit mentality. You approach it with a deficit mentality, right? You approach it with a way that says, I am watching. I am observing. I am not trusting. Think about when we do that with learning. So we don't want to do that. So what I did, I unlearned some stuff, Allison. And then when I unlearned some stuff, I jump in the water. You see me in the water right now. I take over the whole lake when I jump in the water. It's not. You could hear my voice from way down. Men, I know you could imagine. You could hear my voice from way across the next side of the lake. Because now I am examining all the things in and out. The fear I'm feeling, the precaution I'm taking, the assumption, the stereotypes. Think about that. Think about your leadership. What are the things that you have refused to do? I was going to bring it home now. What are the things you have refused to act refuse to do because of deficit thinking, assumptions. You heard this about the lake, you heard that about it, you heard all that foolishness. As a matter of fact, I'm going to tell you why I use the word foolishness. If you have ever watched the movie Lake Placid, you will understand why I said foolishness. Because that's the movie that affected my lake love. Because I just think there's something under the bottom. Because Lake Placid taught me that. We have to unlearn. We have to unlearn. So a firm acknowledgement of who we are and what we believe. See what I'm doing right now? The values we hold, the power and privilege we have, the bias and prejudice that we hold will allow us to address concerning and conflicting issues within us. Note where I said within us. I did not say within the Ottawa School Board. I didn't after the Ottawa Catholic. I didn't say within the leadership meeting. I didn't say within the school. I said within us. I'm better able to operate as a more inclusive leader. I wrote this article in 2018. It allows us our cultural currency in intentional, deliberate ways. I want you to quote that later on when you tweet it. It allows that part. It allows us to use our cultural currency in intentional ways. Think about that. You're using what you have in better ways. I wrote this from 2018. So I want us to think about that as a leader. Let's move on. As a leader, the next level of understanding who you are is what you know and what you do not know. I get very, very down and brokenhearted when I see teachers, young teachers. When I used to go to workshops, I'm a workshop person. And when I used to go to workshops at a TDSB to learn, not as a presenter, as a learner. And I would sit at the table with teachers who were just out of college, 1, 2, 3 years. And they would be not interested in nothing that's going on. They would criticize the present. And I look at them and I would say, because I'm that kind of person, I say, there's nothing in this entire 3 hours that you want to learn. You know everything that the guest speaker is saying. I've been teaching for that time. I've been teaching for 20 years, 18 years. And I would say to them, I am still drinking it up. And you just out of college and you know everything. So we have to be aware of what is it that we know. But I love the second part. It says we should remain curious, always retooling, acquiring more knowledge, gaining. I'm going to share something with you very, very personal. So this morning, I'm doing my reading, Sherry. I'm doing my reading, I'm doing my study, I'm going through, preparing for another presentation I'm going to do tomorrow at the Ministry of MCCS, Ministry of Community and Children's Services. And I just Googled the word anti-oppression. I Googled the word anti-oppression. And all of a sudden, some other things come up that I've never seen before. I just started reading. I just put my hand right like this, Sherry. And I was just reading. Before you know it, I had about 3 pages of notes. I live and breathe this kind of stuff, Sherry. But you know what? I need to be better at what I do every day. And if you are the kind of person who feel like you have learned every single thing and you don't want to learn anything more, well, kudos to you. Kudos to you. I'm looking behind me for something because I learned a new term this morning. You remember we were talking about that BIPOC term and we said it's not enough and it's not complete? This morning I was reading something and a new term came up to me. When I find it, I'll share it to you later on. And what they did, they included more acronyms, but they were including Latinx. They included Pacific Islander and something else. So it was a longer wording, but it was Black, Indigenous, Latinx, Asian, Latinx, PI, Pacific Island, and OPC, other people of color. So it was a longer one. And I learned that. Because if you remember, we were talking about how vocabulary the other day keep changing. So this morning, June the 21st, I got another 2 letters. I put the Pacific Islander, the L, the Latinx, and the A, Asian in it. So when you see me next time, you ain't gonna get no BIPOC from me. You gonna get more letters from me, Sherry. You gonna get me, and I don't care. We can extend it. If you want, we can put an entire 26 letters. But I want to show you that I am engaged in the learning. That's the point I want to make, the constant engagement in the learning. Thank you so much. I see somebody saying something in the chat. Keep sharing with us. Lifelong, T-Sang, lifelong. Life is a process. It's a process. Marlene, I like what you said. And I like what you did. I like what you did. Anybody see what Marlene did? Look in the chat box. Marlene didn't make a sentence. Marlene put some words and she put a full stop after each. Very intentional. Change, full stop. New, full stop. Different, full stop. Discomfort, full stop. Taking a lead, full stop. I don't know what subject you teach, but I know how to read something properly. And I noticed every single word you placed was complete. I hope you got that. I hope you got that. Every word she placed was complete in itself. Powerful. Thank you for that. You gave me a moment just now. Thank you. So how are we uncovering our personal bias and stereotypes? It's a learning that we do that, you know. This is just a learning. We like to use this big terminology. Oh, I'm uncovering my personal bias. I'm covering my stereotypes and those issues that I hold. It simply means you're learning. It simply means I am intentional about my learning. It simply means I am engaging in my learning. That's what it means. That's exactly what it means. So who you are impacts how you lead. That one was from about 2016 or 17. Who you are impacts how you lead. You cannot be kind if you're not a kind person. Have you ever seen some people, Laurel, you struggle with them, and you said, oh, I wish Sherry or Neda or Philippe would be nicer, and you struggle because you want those. Laurel, they can't be nicer. They're not nice people, period. You see, when I say these things, people look at me funny until they go research it and realize you cannot lead who you are not. You cannot do what you are not. People who are passionate about advocacy, you check their history. They were advocating they were in Girl Guides and Cub Scout and Brownies. They have been those little girls. When they go to camp, they had stories like they were the one that caught into a fighting back for somebody's candy that was stolen. You check it. I see Neda smiling. Neda, you know it's the truth I'm telling. You remember these advocacy things. But guess what? Here comes a trick. We never called them advocacy. We didn't. The first time I did a leading in advocacy, a leading in equity, diversity, and inclusion, a leading, Neda, I have no idea it was what I was doing. None. Because the term equity was new. It's like a couple of years for me. And the advocate, you hear some of those a little bit more, activists, you heard it on CNN News. But I wasn't no activist or no advocate. I was a teacher who got into some issues at school because I realized that a group of kids who were not reading, they were in grade 6 and they were just being promoted. So I went to the principal, asked to open a resource room. That's my story that I love to tell. And she said to me, Mr. Campbell, you could get any class you want. I was a young teacher coming back from college. She said, you could get any class you want. Those days we streamed, Michelle. Leanne, those days we streamed. I'm talking about 6 stream. Those days you had grade 5, A, B, C, D, E, F. And the kids in E and F and C knew they were in E, F, and C. The whole energy in the school told them you were in the lowest stream. And I'd make a choice. I was young, I was 21. And I said to the principal, can we start a reading program? I did advanced reading in college. She said, we don't have a reading program here. She said, but I said, can we work? And she worked it out. She said, well, there's an old room that is locked up, an old home economics room locked up with fridge and stove and sink. And I cleaned it out and started the Waterford Primary School resource room. And the kids tease each other and says, you can go to that room. That's the dunce room. You see, when you try to do change, Neda, if you think everybody's gonna say, yay, well, Neda's gonna do some changes. Let's just jump on the change bandwagon. That's not true. That's not true. That's a lie. People have to be bought into that, Nicola. Jody, people have to buy into your change. You have to sell your change. You have to give them, as we said in John Cutter later on, a reason for change, a rationale for change, a urgency for change. Reason, rationale, urgency for change. You have to be the one to say that to them. This is the reason, the rationale, the urgency for the change. You have to buy into that. You have to be the one who's intentional about that. So when they said that's a dunce room, I wasn't surprised. I'm actually in college. We were told about discrimination and assumptions about those kids. And so I just started the room in less than 2 weeks. In less than 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, they come to me every day. The kids will come to me, one set of them every day for a couple of hours for the day. After 2 weeks, other children started to tell their parents they want to go to Mr. Campbell's room. Mr. Campbell's room become the spot. As a matter of fact, Nicola, it became the teacher hangout lunch room because I had music in there. I didn't play music lunchtime for years. Because then after of a sudden, they wanted to keep the committee meetings in the room because I used to shine and polish the floor myself. Those days, we don't have janitor that. The janitor in those days only clean the bathroom. We clean our own classroom. I know some of you know about those days, years ago. It became the room. So the principal wanted to keep staff meeting in my room. It became the room, the hangout spot. Because you have put place as a leader to change the perception of the room. Because who you are impacts how you lead. Who you are impacts how you lead. Thank you, Michelle. I see that. I see that. I see that. And we see what's going on. The sensitivity training is important, right? So do we know the people we serve? Do we know the people we serve? Do we actually know them? Are we taking the time to learn them? Are we taking the time to discover them? Are we taking the time to find out who they are? Who are these people on my team? Who are these people I'm going to work with come September? I know your first meeting may be, whatever date, but have you planned to have a coffee meeting with them otherwise? Yes, we're going to have this meeting all day, but maybe you want to plan a back to school picnic, a back to school dinner. Oh yes, I said it. If I was a principal tomorrow morning, these are my plans. I want a back to school dinner with my teachers. Maybe I'm going to invite them to my home or we go somewhere. I'm going to have to tell the principal, the superintendent, I need a budget for that. I need something. I'm going to have to do a potluck, but I want to get to know my new teachers. I want to get to know my teachers. I want to get to know my parents. I'm not going to wait until October curriculum night when I want to tell them about their kids' midterm assessment. I want to learn them the first week in September. I want to say good afternoon to them. Maybe it's an afternoon with coffee. Maybe it's a donut and bagel afternoon for parents. Whatever you are doing, you have to know the people you serve. And think about it. What is your action plan? Actions I can take to foster inclusion as a leader. So let's do a little activity here. I want you, don't try to feel all proper. Think about September. Whether you're principal, vice principal, whether you're a teacher, and I hope we have classroom teachers with us, whether you're a superintendent, whether you're a consultant, whether you're in some special program, I want you to go in the chat for me right now. Let's jump in the chat, everybody. And I want you to type for me one action you have in mind. Let's share the ideas. I promise you, if I borrow it from you or steal it from you, I promise you we won't execute it the same way. I have a funny feeling Sherry will not execute like Laurel nor Allison. You have your own style. You have your own brand. It's a good idea, but how will you execute? So jump in the chat for me and share with all of us one of those ideas you have. One of those action ideas you've been thinking about, or something you've been doing already, because not all of us know what everybody's doing. Let's do a sharing right now. Go ahead for me. Welcome or welcome back cards for all staff. It sounds simple, it's powerful. It's not as simple as it looks, it's powerful. Thank you for that. Asking some genuine questions to get to know them. Like really go behind the eye, how are you? Starting the conversations. Help to provide teachers with tools to support student wellness. Thank you for that. Right? Be present in the always. I used to call it leadership by visibility. Remember, I've been doing this for years. I have been a grade coordinator for 6 grades in the Bahamas for when I was in the Bahamas for a while. And that was a part of my brand. I was leader by visibility. The kids used to be like, oh, you don't even bother because you're going to say Mr. Campbell. He just appeared. Mr. Campbell just appeared out of nowhere. And they loved it because it was leadership by visibility. Some of you are locked up in the office too long. You have to plan which part of your day you are going to get up and walk around the school. Which recess are you going to be in the yard? Oh, Mena, they wasn't ready for this, Mena. They think that you wasn't ready for this. Oh, I would go right there, because these are when you do change, because you get to model and demonstrate. A lot of us, we think leadership means sit behind, and I know some of you are saying, well, if you know the number of paperwork we have to do in Ottawa, then we have no time to walk the schoolyard. Nope, I'm not taking it. Sorry, you have to tell me which one day you have to go into the yard to do the walk up and down. You have to let the children know you, know their favorite fruit. You get to know them little by little. You get to know the little groups that play over there. You get to know the little group that goes on the swing. You get to know them, and they get to know you and trust you and speak to you. I like what you said, Sean, about the voice. Yes, Michelle Frost, I love it. Ensure proper pronunciation of names. I have been working intention. Can I tell you that when I just met Mena, I used to call her Mina. And I called her Mina for maybe the first 2 sessions until one day she finally corrected me. I couldn't blame her for taking 2 days. I would wish she had done it the first hour and just inbox me and said, it's not Mina, it's Mena. But I was saying Mina, right? So you have to make sure we do that, because it's respectful, it's necessary, it's needed. Don't be like, well, it's okay. No, it's not. Model through actions. Thank you, Rob. Modeling. So thank you for that. I love that. You have to be intentional. And Kathy, I saw that. Kathy. I saw the listen. If we want to have student voices, we have to also listen to the student voices. If we want to have student voices, we have to listen to the student voices. If we want to have student voices, we have to listen to the student voices. It makes no sense. We pretend we want to listen and we don't. So let's get back into it. So we talk about the actions. We are intentional, we are deliberate. And I love this picture of the sticky note because we want to remember those actions. So let's get into some more stuff. When we are doing this work, we have to make sure we identify what we want to do. And disrupting is not a bad word. Disrupting don't mean burn down and tear down. Disrupting means stopping what's going on that is incorrect. And then we're dismantling. Dismantling don't mean destroying. We are destroying those things so we can make space. Have you ever seen someone tear down an entire home? And then you say, wow, they tear down the entire home. They must have money. And then all of a sudden you see the most beautiful property just coming out of the earth. They could not build unless they dismantle. I'm going to say something I've said no way before. A lot of us seemingly are building. We're building on some really, really battered, dilapidated ideas. We're trying to build on some battered, torn down, dilapidated, need fixing, missing a nail, missing a board, missing tons of ties. That's how we are building. And we keep on wondering, why is this crumbling? Why is it not working? Because you didn't patch work. Oh, 2:15 happened, Allison. Let's go do something. And all of a sudden you do something performative. And then of course it crumbles. Then of course you're called out and it becomes a problem. Because all you planned to do was to do just the one talk, the one event, the one email, the one letter. There was no digging. There was no setting a foundation. I've been telling people right now, plan to include Indigenous voices, student voices, other voices in ways, in simple ways. You remember when we do graduations and we have the 5, 6 important people on the podium? We know it's okay. It's okay. The politician comes, the trustee comes, the school board chairman. We know it's important. But guess what? You could pull 2 more chairs, Mena. Pull 2 more chairs. And then I would put our Indigenous person in our community that has worked with us before. I put them on one of the guest speakers, or one of the special panel chair. I put them on one of the special panel chair, and then I would put maybe a student who's a leader on one of the chair. You have to show intentional that you are working with people, not just in one moment, but you're building relationship. So now we're identifying, disrupting, dismantling. And that's my magic word right there, everybody. And that equals change. That's my equity maths there. Take a picture of my equity mats, everybody. We're identifying, we're disrupting, we're breaking down, but then we're doing change. We're not leaving it mashed up. We're not leaving it just disturbed. We're not doing that. That's not what we're here for. As leaders, we don't get to destroy and walk away, you know. I want you to realize this. You don't get to slam the door and walk away. I think I said this the first meeting we had. I said, you don't get to call out and just walk away. Anybody remember those days? You just call out, put back your gun on your hip and you just walk out of the salon like, no, we don't get to do that. We get to now say, oh, whew, now that we have done this identifying, now that we have done this disrupting, what is our plan for change, Laurel? We need to get together. You, me, Alex, Nicola, Jody, Julie, Mike, O'Connor, Rob Moore, Mary. Maybe we need to get in, calling Ann and Kathy O'Brien, calling Tanya, Miriam Graham, call them in and said, hey, let us see if we could do a change plan together. We need a change plan. Don't forget Leon and Michelle. Don't leave them out. Michelle McGarry, you say, let's go with this change plan, girl. We need to be doing this. So we are here to lead. So watch this. This is something I created this. This is my diversity leader, you. Who are you? Let us talk about this for a minute. And we are going to be out here maybe even 5 minutes earlier because I know it's lunchtime. I know you have that luxury of time. Don't have the luxury of time. And I know I want to be so respectful of your time. But I want you to look at this. Self. We talk about that. Red is others. I put others in red for a reason. But I want you to realize that I believe in constant reflection. Sometimes I hit out hard against reflection. People think I don't believe in reflection. I keep on saying I teach reflection as a course at the university. I teach it. But what I have a problem with is when you are stuck in reflection. And every time I see you, you are reflecting. I saw you 2018, you were reflecting. 2019, you were reflecting. 2020, you were listening and reflecting. 2021, you're listening and you're reflecting. But I want action. I need a little bit more. But this is necessary. The empathy that comes from here, especially as persons who are identified as Christians, especially a person who believe in the human touch. When we are religious people, whether you're Christian, you're Muslim, you're Jew, whatever religion, whether you're, whatever religion, I realize that the heart part is common. The love for my neighbor as myself is common and necessary. Here comes the powerful when I center it in the middle for a reason. Moral courage. It's going to take process. When I told you my story about the Waterford Primary School reading room, if you walk away from that story thinking, whoa, that was nice, Dr. Campbell. You went to your principal, you never the reading room, she gave you a room, you turned it into a new room, and they lived happily ever after. If that's honestly what you believe, I'm going to be disappointed in you. I'm going to be disappointed. If I tell you, I'm sure, Laura, you must figure out, well, the parents must have complained. Teachers must have a problem. Why is Mr. Campbell, new teacher, getting to create a whole system? He should have just teaching grade 5 DRE. Like, why does he get to do that? My principal was accused of favoritism for me. She was big accused. Rest in peace, Barbara Reed. She was accused. In my book, I dedicate a part of my in one of my book piece to her. A piece I wrote about her. In my book, Teacher Monty, DR.ABC, I wrote about Barbara Reed. There were parents who said, my child should go into a reading program. The child can't even spell his name. I had to sit the parent down and explain why I'm helping your child. And I used the word help and love and care. They bought into that in less than 2 weeks. The kids said, we love going to Mr. Campbell's room. It's the best test room. I love that word, best test. There's no such word. My favorite word, best. It's the best test room. It's clean. Mr. Campbell is nice. We get to use technology. That time we didn't have the computer at that time, for those who didn't know that. 1991. So at that time, I used a lot of video cassette. I used to record my voice on video cassettes and play it back. I'm coming from old school, Laurel. I see you smiling. Coming from old school. I used to roll off the test on the Gestetner machine. Oh yes, I am that old. Or maybe the school is that old. Or maybe the facility is that old. Oh yes, that's where I'm coming from. So I want you to understand that change is never easy. Change just don't happen. You just get up and just do change. Change is a process. Change is a process. Change is a process. All right, change is a process. So let's move into that. So we're going to wrap up in a minute. So change management. Let's get into that now. So we talk about all the things we're going to do. We talk about all the people we need to do it. Before I get back to that, let me go back to the advocacy. You see the courageous conversation is next, right? You see what's next? When you have the empathy, the moral courage, then you get to the conversations. Some of you, you're trying the conversations before you even examine yourself. You get in trouble. That's why we get in trouble, leaders, because you're trying to have courageous conversation. We don't even yourself. So when somebody says to you, well, Allison, I don't think you should. You don't even have the heart to say, that's fine. I know that I don't know that. And that's why I'm engaging in learning. That's why I'm here. When you have examined yourself, you can proudly say what you don't know. But because you have not examined yourself, you're full of pride. And because you're walking the superintendent's slippers and you walk in the principal's shoes, something says you must know everything and you end up saying the wrong thing. But if you were reflective, if you had seen others, you'd have realized when it comes to courageous conversation, it's okay. I have had people being angry in workshop and I fold my arms like this and I listen and I said to them, it's okay to be upset. I said, the only thing I wish is that we had 3 hours, 4 hours so you could get to listen and do more. We don't have that luxury. And so what I'm going to ask is that I'm going to speak to our leader and ask that she assist me in creating a space. I may not be the one to lead, but we're going to do a space what we call healing or post-traumatic healing or listening circle or what healing circle, whatever, because you need that. But I want you to appreciate that in 1 hour we can't do that. That's how you talk to people in courageous conversation. You don't pretend to do a healing circle in 40 minutes when you know it can't work. Then you mess it up. So then we move on. How are we going to do change? Let's wrap this up with change. Who wants change? Every one of us, including me. Who wants to change? You're not so sure, right? Who wants to lead the change? Men, where are your people? They're gone. Everybody wants change. Everybody wants change. But let us be honest. There's 6 or 12 of us in the room today. Let us be very honest. Which one of us here we are willing to change? We are going to realize, wow, what I did last year can't work next year. What I did as the vice principal not going to work as a superintendent. What I did when I was doing grade 1 and 2 not going to work now that I'm the coordinator. And how do I lead change? It's a process. It's time consuming. And here comes my Cotter's 8-step change model. Take a picture, everybody. I love this model. I've been using this model. I learned this model when I did my master's. I learned this model. I graduated my PhD back in 2009. And I have been using this model ever since. There are many other models. There's no one model. So if you Google change model, you're going to find a couple models. I like the one that says we call it unstuck, change, and then restock. You know, unpin, open, change, and close. There's a 3 steps, but this for me is gradual. I'm a systematic person. My type A personality needs step by step. So I want you to think, creating the change. Look at the first one. You have done that. You have created the urgency. Anti-Black racism, issues with in-streaming, all the data that says the kids are saying this, the parents are saying this, 215, Indigenous issues, First Nations issues, truth and reconciliation issues, what we see happening over there, what happened with a principal over there, we see the kind of embarrassment with that book and we see embarrassment over there. There's an urgency. If you have to sell teachers the reason why we need EDI, then you need to check on those teachers you have to be selling it to. Check on them. Check on those people you need to be selling it to constantly. Check on them because there's need to be accountability in the process. Accountability. Then form a powerful correlation. Who among us want to do the leading? Maybe all 62 of us can't do it. Maybe some of you have to be working on other projects and you want to make somebody form the coalition. But look at number 3. I'm believing this. This is where some of you get weak because you don't create the vision. It's more than just the equity plan. So the equity plan is the vision. It is the vision. And some of you have one. You have one as well, I know. And guess what? For those of you who feel the need that you need to have a 25-page document, don't do it. Don't feel forced. A 4 or 5-page document is quite fine. You know, you don't need a big book on the equity policy. That's the problem. Some person have a book this thick and nothing is happening. If you have 5, 6 things you want to focus on, the well-being, the introduction to the curriculum, the culture relevant pedagogy, the First Nation centering of stories and books and celebration, the observation, few things you want to focus on for the next school year, 2021 to 2022. And if somebody says to you, well, I know you're not doing this, you have to be honest and say, this is our first year of a 5-year project. We do not expect to do everything in the first year. You have to be honest. Because everybody's going to pull at you. Well, I think you should change your uniform. And I think you should, everybody is taking the moment to seize the moment. That's something as a leader, I'm speaking to you as a leader to understand. You are not going to appease and please everyone. But you must be authentic and honest about your vision and your plan. And the vision and plan need to be able to be adjusted. If something comes up, and then January next year, you say, you know what? We need to revisit it and make some amendments. That's fine. That's fine. It's not cut in stone. Even if they save it in PDF file, you can copy and paste it in Word and change it. Don't let anybody feel like it's so crystallized that it can't change. The vision adjusts and the vision change. Communicate. So number 4 is where the danger happens. If you ask me, it's me shaking my head like that, it's my allergies. Don't worry about it. I'm good. So it's the allergies. This is where we fail sometimes, Mena. The communication of the vision. What are we doing as a board for equity? Nobody knows. Who knows? Only me know and Michelle Frost? Only 3 of us know? Well, everybody has to know, including the office administration staff, the janitorial staff, the persons who are paraprofessionals in the school. Everybody need to know we are working at respecting name and identity. We are working at celebrating people with more substance. We are working on looking at better resources. We are working at certain terminologies. Let us know. Empower the action. That's a big one there, number 5, the accountability. How do we do that? Empower the action. You can't say to principals, we want you all to get your staff to do PD, and then you say to them, but by the way, we are taking away less money for the PD budget. Well, okay then. I don't know what to say. If we're going to do more PD, if we're going to do better learning next year, but we cut the PD budget by half, I don't know what to say. Unless we have a better idea, which sometimes there is a better idea. But you have to be clear on the idea to empower the action. And number 6 is powerful for me. It's one of my favorite of all. Create quick wins. When I tell people as principals and leaders, I say to them, you need to share what you're learning. People says, oh, but they will accuse us of, wanting to share on social media or, grandstanding or certain things. I said, listen to me. When you're authentic, you're authentic. Everybody needs to share. I've never tell one person, one organization to stop putting out statements. Never, because these statements are important. But if you notice me, I talk about statements a lot. Because a lot of us, we believe that if I put out a statement about 215 or anti-Black racism or something at me, then we are done. I mean, no, that's not it. But you have to also let people know the wins you are doing. You have to say what you're doing. You have to create the quick wins. So even the workers, the principal, the vice principals who are lifting the load, they must be told, thank you for doing this. There are people like in this room who have come to speaking sessions, workshop. I'm sure Mena has already tell you thanks. But there's ways to say thank you. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for volunteering your time. I know there's not 62 people alone who are leaders in the board. I know that for a fact. Can't be 62 of you alone. So you have to say thanks to those people who show up. Because when they show up, it's something. And they need to know that you appreciate them showing up. I don't know who in charge of saying thank you, but somebody has to send a letter to people who participate and say, thank you for showing up. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for using the videos, and thank you for asking the questions. Thank you for taking notes. Thank you for doing this. We have to celebrate the wins. And we have to build on the change. So I leave you with a few comments quickly about the urgency. Our children, and I love this quote from Wolverhand, our children don't have time for us to decide to act on their behalf. Urgency should be a catalyst for change needed in our schools. Urgency, however, should never lead to people feel like they have been run over. People have said to me, and I'm not boasting, I'm really sharing that they like my approach because one day I keep on telling people, stop making people think that this work in disrupting anti-Black racism, anti-homophobia, anti-Indigenous, anti-Muslim, whatever, is going to happen in overnight. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not. Stop making people feel like it's going to happen and call them out and slam the door. I don't play that game because I've seen people do it and it doesn't work. It damages the people and nobody is healed. Nobody is growing. Nobody is loved. I teach with love. And I'm sure you know I'm a strong person. I'm sure you realize. One day, Alison, I must tell you, I shouldn't even put this on the video, but I must tell you, one day they were talking about the number of people who have asked them for accommodation. And I said, something must be wrong because I don't have half my university student asking me for extension. And then somebody said to me, Dr. Campbell, the way you teach it a certain way that, you know, you're funny, right? But you know, you're very serious, right? And so when you make it clear a due date, we kind of know it's a due date. And I had to laugh. But then I said, no, but if you need, she said, no, if we do, we know you're approachable. We do come to you. But something inside them says, I'm no nonsense. I've always been this person. So you have to be accurate, be no nonsense, but you have to leave with love. You can't run over people and say, well, you have to do this, and then there's no rationale behind it. That's why people feel run over, because there's no built-in, there's no vision, there's no communication. If there's no built-in, no vision, no communication, no empowerment, then of course I'm going to feel run over. Of course I'm going to feel run over. And there are principals and leaders who are weak. So they send their staff a letter. Tomorrow morning, everybody must be doing this at 9 o'clock. Amen. And you are done. You feel like you're being abused. If you're a leader, you have to lead with people. You can't lead by yourself. You can't lead by yourself. You have to lead people. People who lead by themselves are impossible because you cannot lead by yourself. So I want you to have that vision. But I'm going to close and give you this last one I want to give you. School leaders should celebrate their short wins. Take a picture of this one, everybody. While continuing to articulate the long-term goals. Celebration is even more important in education than in business. Sometimes celebration is the only positive our teachers experience, particularly in these times of fiscal austerity. So I want to think about why we need to celebrate. And I'll wrap up and I'll close with this one. I always love this one. You know, I've seen this, shown this before. I want to show you the power of leaders. That our hands supporting our students. This is just a symbol picture, but you can put any student in the middle. And our hands, your hands, Sherry, your hands, Laurel, Allison, your hands, Neda, our hands, my hands, your hands, surrounding our students will say, I am invested in you. And because of you, I want to lead change. Change is about us. Change is about us as leaders. So let us do that as we seek. It's been a pleasure being here with you. It's been a really pleasure in this series. I'm ready to continue this series, just so you know. Not now, we're going to take a break. But it's been amazing. It's been a real time of learning and unlearning and relearning and change and all that good stuff. So thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Please show your appreciation for Dr. ABC in the chat. Send him a thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I want to thank you so much for spending the last few weeks with us. You have been part of our learning and you've taught us so much. You've taught us that our learning needs to be ongoing. You've taught us that change is a process and we must be able to continue and invest in our own capacity and our cultural currency. For the record, I join you at the cottage anytime. So whenever that invitation comes, I'm there. We look forward to seeing you again, and we hopefully look forward to having you in person in Ottawa in the future. We love that.
Absolutely.
And to all our participants, I know it's not easy to gather in June, but there really never is a great time for all of us to be together and learn together. So thank you for being part of this learning, and thank you for making time to join us today and in the last few weeks. And on behalf of OCSB, thank you, Dr. ABC. We wish you a happy summer, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful
Thank you, everyone.